Hello and welcome back to the Football Terrace. Thank you very much for tuning in. Massive Manchester United update from Fabrizio Romano in relation to the transfer of Sergio Reguilon. That's the left back of Real Madrid, Sergio Reguilon to Manchester United. The deal is intensifying. The deal is moving closer. The first official bid will be submitted very, very soon. We're going to give you the breakdown on that. Before we do, hit the like button, hit the share button. I hope you're liking the new trim. Got a new little trim done today. Little bit of shape, first time in 6 months. Feels good. How you all doing? I'm excited about this news. I'm really intrigued to see what Sergio Reguilon can do in a Man United kit. I'm hopeful and positive that Man United can get this deal done. But let's break down what Fabrizio Romano has had to say this morning. Very simple what he has said here. He said that Man United are considering a move. I've been considering an official move for days now, but don't want to pay the 30 million euro asking price. Real Madrid are also requesting a buyback clause. Personal terms are not going to be an issue. Fabrizio then debunks these rumors that have been spread recently that Manchester United are not the preferred choice of Reguilon, that he'd rather go back on loan to Sevilla. He says Reguilon wants to join Manchester United. Opening bid to be submitted soon, and Sevilla are out of the race. Don't get it twisted. This is genuine. Man United are going for this player. For me, I think it's going to get done. I think it's going to get over the line. United are going to try and negotiate that price down from 30 million to about 25 million euros. And of course, get rid of the buyback clause that's holding this deal up. But I want your views. I want your opinions. Hit the like button right now. That's the most important thing you can do for me and my platform. Hit the like button. Hit the share buttons as well. Really important that we get that done. It really, really is. Gabriel here says, I'll be waiting. Can't wait. For what? Say what you mean, Gabs. Say what you mean. Say what you mean. Someone here says, same old. Man United linked to somebody, but we don't sign them. What? 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 What are you talking about? We literally signed Van der Beek a few days ago. Terry, I have a question. How do players get better? Training and dedication, generally speaking, that would be my view and my opinion. We've got Onzo on the line here. Onzo, welcome back to the Football Terrace. Who do you support?
United.
Bruv, what do you make of Fabrizio's news? It looks like the move for Reguilon is going to intensify. It looks like Man United are genuinely in for him. What's your opinions, bro?
Yeah, no, he's a good player still. I believe that if you compare him to Shaw, because I think Shaw's good as well, but he's more defensive, and someone like Alex Telles is more attacking. This left back that we're about to sign right now, he's balanced, so he'll support us on the left side. But I believe that also that if we sign him, then it will lessen our chances of getting Sancho. Because I believe that the board is now kind of frustrated with Dortmund being unfair to United and that. So, truly, for me personally, even though some do think that maybe it might be best if we try get Sancho next season early, because that if we don't get Sancho, we could at least fix the left back, fix the centre backs, fix the CDM role if we can, and then at least next year hopefully we could at least sign a striker and a winger to actually challenge for the league.
And you know what, bro? That's a very sensible. That's a very sensible look at this as well. I've said all
Yeah.
along that I want to sign Jadon Sancho. Absolutely want that massively. There's no doubt about it. However, if it can't be done for whatever reason, this notion that we still can't have a good summer is mental. It's a general mental thought process for someone to have. Bring in Reguilon. I still think there's some life in this Thiago deal as an example. If you could sign those two players and not get Sancho, it isn't the perfect summer. It isn't the greatest summer of all time. But the question will be, have we improved have we improved the squad? Have we made our squad stronger? The answer is going to be yes. And with our youngsters being a year older, this sort of negativity that's being thrown about that we're dead, we're in the gutter, it's all going to fall through. I think it's a madness.
Exactly. And you see, social people like socials. He's not an idiot. Like he knows what he needs to improve on. He's seen how good the front three were like last season. Like I think we're like top. For me, I believe. Like,
Bro, 1 second, mate. You're cutting in and out a lot. I'm not sure if it's because you're moving or
sorry.
whatever. Yeah. Try to stay still for it. That'd be great. Cheers, mate.
Sorry, my bad. Yeah, personally for me, I believe like if we got Thiago, Sergio, Reguilon, um, honestly, I believe if we got Bell on loan, he will be a big help to us, and then probably try get like a Upamecano or whatever centre back to support Maguire. Because if you look at it now, like Sancho, the only teams I believe that will probably try to get Sancho is between us and probably Liverpool, only because I believe Real Madrid would try bid for Mbappe because I think Mbappe's contract is ending in 2022. So I don't believe like Sancho will, because if we get Sancho now, like what's it's just gonna like what like it doesn't really mean anything. Like our attack would just be as good as it is last year, but our defense will still be shaky, and we wouldn't really have like as much support in the midfield.
Mate,
So
I agree with you.
opinion.
Yeah, mate, I think you're speaking a lot of sense. It's very sensible. It isn't this sort of scaremongering that a lot of United fans are doing. You know, if we end this summer, and let's just throw this one out there, let's say we bring in Thiago or Thomas Partey in the middle as an additional player. You bring in a Gareth Bale or a Costa on loan, and you get in a Reguilon with Van der Beek. It's a good to very good summer.
It's a very good, good, because it means that we've addressed a lot of areas in one season, one window, and at least like if not this window, come January window or next year, at least it's just the attack to improve. Because Oli has already done. Because Oli, everyone knows that when Oli came, he wasn't gonna come to win us a title within 1 or 2 seasons. Everyone said that it's gonna take him time. It's only given him 1 year. It's only taken him 1 year now. He's gotten us to third place. At least, like now, he knows because I don't think there's been one signing you could say that's actually been a bad signing. So you could say Oli knows what he's doing. So yeah, I have a lot of faith in Oli.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I've got a lot of faith in what the guy's doing. I think that he's gonna, he's that move in the right direction for us. There's no doubt in my mind. I think he can be the guy we want him to be in terms of taking Man United onto just a different standard to what we've seen before. And I've mentioned this a few times, and again, none of the negative Nellies seem to want to talk about this, but it's the first time I've seen a summer in a long time where we haven't been linked with mass players leaving, players wanting to go, arguments behind the scenes. Rare. It's a much better feeling inside this Manchester United camp, and that in itself is going to elevate us to new levels. And it isn't something I wanted to see happen. But let me just say now, everything going on with the likes of Mason Greenwood and Maguire, I think is going to make Manchester United a better team going into next season. I think there's going to be a brotherhood and a togetherness and everything else. We've got to remain patient. Like I said, I tweeted last week that the 14th of September, there's a few journalists saying that they think that's when this deal is going to happen. Who knows? These things could protrude. We saw the Kai Havertz and Chelsea deal. Looked like it was literally hours away from happening. 5 weeks later, negotiations are still going on. This is what's going to happen. You look at what the Bayern Munich president said at the weekend, and if football fans don't learn from this, for me, they're being ignorant on purpose. They are burying their head in the sand. That he thinks that both Man United and Liverpool are going to wait quite literally until the dying moments of the transfer market to bid for him, in the hope that they're going to get the player cheaper than Bayern Munich are requesting. Because for all these clubs, barring City, Paris Saint-Germain and Chelsea, that do have an endless bucket of money, they all have to be thrifty. They all have to be frugal with their investments. And I know fans hate that. I know fans don't want it. I know fans just want it to be done straight away. They want the deal to be done yesterday and they don't want to wait. But life and business doesn't work like that. People talk about the Ziyech deal at Chelsea. Ziyech wasn't an early transfer signing. It was late. They tried to get the thing done in the January, but they couldn't get it done. And it's just always, it's how you want to frame something and how you want to position something. And am I a fan of the Glazers? No. Do they take hundreds of millions of pounds, billions of pounds out of Man United over the years they've been here? Yes. However, when it comes to judging what my board are doing, when it comes to judging what Ollie's doing, I almost have to feel like we have to now start to separate the two things, because Ollie isn't accountable. Then you get these Muppets who say, oh, Ollie should stand up and say something. What? And get sacked, and then have somebody else come in and be in the same position. What I would rather have is somebody on my side in there getting out of the Glazers what they can, because that's what Fergie did. Fergie knew if Fergie would have kicked off and said, "Don't trust these people," and left, can you imagine where Man United would be right now?
Yeah,
we'd be in the bottom half of the table. You need someone who's fighting your side on the inside, because we can't change every. Do you get what I mean? Like this we always have this
100.
notion you can't change it, but that doesn't sell for certain people. They want it to all to be doom and gloom and stuff like that. Bro, one of the best calls we've ever had on the channel, mate. Thank you very much for coming on, man. Love to speak to you again, my guy. Thank you. Top man. You can call the show via Skype right now. Man United are close to submitting their first official bid for Sergio Reguilon. We want to hear from you right now on the Football Terrace. Skype lines are open. Search the Football Terrace. Get yourselves on. We want to hear from you. Dean here says the Football Terrace and the United Stand are great. Love the community. Absolutely. Big up both channels. Make sure you're following both. Jamie Byrne here, one of my members, says, hope you are well, Terry. A great weekend for the Football Terrace. Have a good week, everyone, and smash the like button. Yes, and remember, tonight, live from 7 p.m., Chelsea's first Premier League game. We've got Kai, Monster, Anita on the show. Anita's also coming on with her pups. So that's going to be a really good show tonight. Full feature-length watch along for that. Make sure you're here tuning in. You're not going to get the same level of content anywhere else. A comment here says, Reguilon, Thiago, and Torres together will be much better than just Sancho by himself. Will address all the areas and also provide good backups. I do hear, look, I hear that. I still want Sancho, by the way. And if you lined up Reguilon and Thiago and said them two or Sancho, pick one of the two options, I would still pick Sancho, but it doesn't mean the other's a bad option. That's the problem with the world now. We are polarized. It's either good or it's bad, or it's black or it's white, or it's brilliant or it's trash. There is never, oh, that's a brilliant option, but that's also a very good option as well. That's just my views anyway. What do I know? A comment here says, United fans saying we are on a downfall. Meanwhile, their PE teacher has his players getting in conflict. What's that got to do? You think that players at other clubs don't get into conflicts every year? Bruv, it's a madness. It's an absolute madness. Sometimes, though, you just get out of it because of CCTV. You know, can you imagine what would have? You remember what happened last year with Ozil and Kolasinac, and they stopped those guys robbing them? Can you imagine if there was no footage to it, and Kolasinac got a hold of one of those guys and beat him up? The media would have spun it as football player beats kid up in the street. Only because we saw what happened. There was actual evidence that was released to us. That's why I've said all along, until I see the evidence for myself, I ain't judging nothing. Trust me, that would have got spun by the Sun if there was no evidence to it and the accusation was made in the other direction. Kolasinac wouldn't have got believed because he's a football player. They never do. No matter what a football player gets accused of, the first stance of the general public is to say guilty till proven innocent. That's just my view anyway. Thank you, Mo, for talking about the fresh trim. Yeah, I went and got it shaped. Got the beard done, you know. Thought I'd make a bit of an effort. Terry, what about Sancho? No news on Sancho as of yet, but just stay relaxed. Stay relaxed. It's all good. Stay relaxed. Stay relaxed. It's absolutely fine. No need for anybody to stress themselves about that whatsoever. Do me a big favor, please. Smash the like button. Hit the share button as well. Let's do some more of your comments here. Maguire is innocent. Lingard, okay, I don't know what that talks about. Terry, what do you think Man United would go for? Sorry, what do you think United would go for Bale on loan if they can't get Sancho this summer? Maybe they will. I think they'll keep fighting for Sancho until the 11th hour and then maybe look elsewhere. There are options. But like I've said, Gareth Bale on loan for a year, paying 1/3 of his salary. I take that if you're not getting Sancho. I take it. Looks like Gary here said, looks like Sancho is playing for Dortmund tonight. Yeah, I know that's going to be a big thing that people focus on tonight. It's going to be a big sort of area for attention, is whether or not he lines up in that team. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. It truly, truly is. I haven't seen Reguilon play. What will he bring to the team? That's a really good question. Well, of course, we saw him play against Manchester United. Surely you watched that game, Billy T. And he's good. my view is very much this. I think he is light years in front of Luke Shaw? No. However, he creates on average double the amount of chances per game that Luke Shaw does. His crossing accuracy is somewhere in the region of 12 to 15% more accurate. Defensively, in relation to winning his defensive duels, tackle succession rate, aerial duels, mistakes leading to goals, being dispossessed in his own half, very key metrics for defenders. They are much of a muchness with Luke Shaw. So I believe what we get with Sergio Reguilon is a younger player, I would say ever so slightly better technically on the ball, equally as good from a defensive standpoint, but better, more potent when it comes to going forward. That's what I've seen in terms of the footage that I've watched, and of course, reading the statistical analysis behind the player. That is what I think Sergio Reguilon can bring. And the fact as well that we're probably going to bring him in for somewhere in the region of £25 million. So it's a steal. It's an absolute steal to bring in a player of Sergio Reguilon's quality and Van der Beek's level for a combined total of about £60 million. Even in this climate, is astounding business, because he is every bit as good as Ben Chilwell. Every bit as good as Ben Chilwell. Van der Beek, by the way, I was thinking about this earlier. Van der Beek is as good as Kai Havertz. As an overall football player, he's as good as... He will outperform Kai Havertz in the Premier League this year, if Donny van der Beek. Half the money. Kai Havertz, if he reaches his potential, is going to cost Chelsea nearly £100 million. Donny's 35 mil. It's an absolute wonderful, brilliant, beautiful, gorgeous piece of business. It really is. And it's being underrated by so many people, which I find interesting. Next up on the show, we've got Amir Iqbal. We're going to get him on once his connection comes through. He's nearly with us right now. We'll get him on in a few moments. Tell us some more. I like that. That's a really good little pun there. It's a nice pun. Ollie will trial having Luke Shaw as a left-footed centre-back, hence him trying to sign somebody up. Yeah, I maybe he'll do that. Maybe he'll do that. Amir Iqbal's with us now. What you saying, bro?
I'm all good. How you doing, Terry? You all right?
I'm very, very well. What do you make of Fabrizio's news in relation to Sergio Reguilon?
So what was the actual statement that he's come out with? What has he actually said? So here we go. Or is it something?
No, his actual words were, Man United it says are considering a move by days. I think what he means is they've been looking at an official move for days. But don't want to pay the 30 million euros and don't want the buyback clause. Personal terms are not an issue. Sergio Reguilon wants to join. Opening bid to be submitted soon. And what's interesting about that, let me just point this out. I had a conversation over the weekend with an agent that I know. And my question to him was, can you tell me, mate, what an unofficial bid is? And he kind of just laughed back saying, there is no such thing as an unofficial bid. You have conversation and talks, and then you get official bids. Most clubs won't start submitting official bids until they are 95% sure that they're going to be accepted or there's room to negotiate. So what you'll see, you could see 3 or 4 months of talks going on. Some journalists will report that bids have gone in. That's because you might get Man United say, listen, what if we give you 25? What if we paid you £25 million up front with no buyback clause? Would that work? Real Madrid say no. Some people look at that as a bid. Some people look at it as a conversation. It's semantics. So that's basically what he's saying. But we are looking. I trust Fabrizio. It looks very, very serious that we're going to go in for him and try and get this deal done. What's your views, mate?
Yeah, I think it's good news. I think it's progress in the market, especially when you've got someone as credible as Fabrizio saying it. It makes you feel that little bit more confident and reassured in what the board are doing. I watched the United show, so props. That was a really good show. I hear you got a new car, so congrats, mate.
Yeah. Thank you.
But yeah, it was a good show, really, really good. And one of the points that someone mentioned, I can't remember who it was. I think it could have been Devil in the Details. But he was just talking about how that basically we're going to long out this Sancho deal, and then the question will be, what about our left back? Personally, I think I was saying this the other day as well. I think they're only going to announce the Sancho deal once they've got all the other bits of business in play, and then they can make it the big marquee signing. They can do all the pull out all the stops and make the videos and do all the promo. But I think it'd be a little bit short-sighted if United to go all out and do the promo and announce it and make the big hoo-ha now, and then fail to land the other targets in the market, or even get bent over a barrel basically to pay, say, 30, 35 for Reguilon, or pay a stupid price for Telles, or sign Thiago but end up paying his initial wage demands that may throw our whole structure out of the way. These kind of things are very easy to happen if Sancho's already exposed and it's already been put out there, and if we're paying the top dollar as well, because we don't know exactly what the figure's going to be, whether it is going to be somewhere closer to the 90 or the 120. I know 108 is the figure that a lot of people are quoting as well, but in reality, we don't know. And if it gets published at a higher figure, as it's most likely to be when it comes to United, I think every other club's going to look at that and think, yeah, do you know what? We'll have a little bit of that cake as well. United are giving it out nicely, so we'll take a slice.
Yeah, no, I think that's such fair analysis of the situation. I think that's fair. Go on, mate. Continue. Sorry.
Yeah, so I just think, to be honest, I think United are playing it very, very smart. Obviously, I'm not massively confident when I think about our board based on the last 7 years. However, since Ollie's been there, I've seen a clear change. I can see there's been signpost after signpost after signpost months in whether it's the Sanchez deal, whether it's the fact that we managed to get Maguire when we needed it, whether it's the fact that we held off on the Bruno Fernandes deal but still waited to get our man, whether it's the fact that we still in public backed Sanchez, even though Ollie was trying to finesse him and get him out of the club, or it's the way that he saw Lukaku. All of these things are big movements in the transfer market. Like Ollie's been behind and watching it being orchestrated. And I think when you've got someone who's pulling the strings in that fashion, it does build confidence for the fans. So you'd rather say, okay, the last 7 years haven't been great. However, in the last 18 months or so, we can see a clear change. And it's just not just one thing, it's about 7 or 8 different things that are indicating towards us seeing a change in the way the board's operating.
Yeah.
When you've got something like that, it gives you a substantial amount of evidence to make a judgment off, as opposed to just, oh, we managed to land one big target or we got one marquee guy. So should Sanchez not come through now, it would be a bit disheartening for a lot of the United fans. It would be still a possibility, but I'd say just like Bruno Fernandes and all the rest of them, yeah, we might not get when we want it, but I still feel that if Ollie wants this guy, he will get him eventually, be it in the January. And I think a lot of people would be massively disheartened and criticise him and maybe even like put his job under pressure, more scrutiny for it. But I personally don't think it should be the case.
Yeah, look, the people that don't like Ollie will look for any excuse to try to get rid of him anyway. So for me, it's irrelevant what those people think now, because there's no balance. And when it comes to listening to somebody's opinion, if there's no balance to it, if there's no nuance to it, if there's no context ever applied, in my humble opinion, those people are a waste of oxygen when it comes to having a conversation, because they're never even going to see your side. They're never even going to say, oh, I understand where you're coming from. So why waste any energy listening to them or sitting within their echo chambers, listening to the consistent vile dross that comes out of their gobs? It's a nonsense to me. Nothing that's going on right now is Ollie's fault. Ollie would have wished and wanted for these deals to be done weeks ago. Of course he does. Ollie can't force it. So you then get those idiots that say, well, he should come out and say something publicly. Look at how much criticism Jose Mourinho has had, and rightfully so, since last night, coming out and saying things like, my players weren't hungry, my players didn't want it, I'm not happy with my team. Being ridiculed by every single person out there. Every single Tottenham fan is against what he's saying, or 80, 90% of them. If Ollie came out and started acting like that, he'd be attacked for being unprofessional. He'd be attacked, and those same negative Nellies would say, he's planting seeds of doubt into these players' minds. He's telling the squad they're not good enough. He's going to make them nervous. He's going to make them underperform. He's going to make them feel like they're worthless. Ollie's a terrible man manager. But whatever Ollie does, these negative people will call him out on it. And that's why these people never do open shows. They never do joint shows with people that are going to challenge them. They never actually come out there and address their points and explain themselves in the sense of, well, what 10 things do you want Ollie to do? I want him to do these 10 things and I'll love him. They won't ever say that, because if he does that and then Ollie does any of those things, they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. What they do is it's very ambiguous, very open. They never really make any statements other than Ollie isn't good enough. Ollie just freestyles. Ollie just gets away with murder. So these people are not a worry for me at all. I think Man United will get some more business done. As you say, I will be disappointed at every level if Sancho doesn't come in. But if you bring in a Reguilon, if you bring in a Thiago to complement the Van der Beek situation, or maybe no Thiago, and you bring in a Bale on loan on a good deal, or a Costa on loan for 6 months a year, it appeases that for me, because we've still improved our squad. We still have better strength in depth. We still now have additional and better options than we did at the end of last season. And that is what we should always aim for. And what I don't want us to do, though, is suddenly panic and go in a completely different direction. And this is what I mean by the hypocrisy of fans. We kicked off and cried and boo-hooed and whined and bitched and rested on our mother's breasts every single time and cried our eyes out every single time we panic bought. Oh, we've been, spent the whole summer in 2013 chasing Fabregas and Gareth Bale, and we ended up with Fellaini. Terrible way of doing things. Had a whole summer doing pretty much nothing. Oh, last minute, you know what? Let's buy 2 players that don't even want to be here in Angel Di Maria, and who was the other guy? Falcao. But big names. A year later, everybody's like, oh, you know what? They were panic buys. You shouldn't have bought them. Now what we're asking the club to do is panic buy and not keep trying to sign the targets that Ollie wants, even if it means that. Everybody turned around for 2 or 3 years and was like, look at Liverpool. They waited 6 months for Van Dijk. They waited a year for Naby Keita. They go for their number 1 targets. They wait as long as they have to get them. They're a brilliant run club. We're going to do the same. Oh, I can't wait for it. We're 4 months into a negotiation. We haven't signed a player. Just sign anyone. We've got to sign someone. Why are we wasting our time on one player? These fans are a bigger problem for Man United as the Glazers. They are toxic. They are a parasite. They are a nasty piece of bacteria that erodes away at good fans with their constant negativity. They chat pure and utter dross. They really do, man. I'm sorry to rant, but it's to a point where I laugh at these human beings now. I laugh at them like, do they realize that Man United fans have woken up to them? Man United fans have awoken and gone, you know what? These negative Nellies are wrong. They're so far out their depth. And we know they're wrong based on little things that have happened with Pogba and with Martial. These same people that hate Ollie are the biggest fanboys of Pogba and Martial. Pogba and Martial love playing for Ollie and want to stay under him. They literally changed their minds about leaving the club because of Ollie. And everyone's like, hang on a minute. You guys hate Ollie, but your favorite player loves him. I think I'm going to trust the player that's in the dressing room over you who's never met him. You never had a conversation with anybody that's met him. You're not willing to even listen to anybody that's met him. And you want to always drag him over the coals. You're dead. Get out of here, bro. That's my view on it, bro. 100%. And someone here says, Terry, you're bald. Absolutely, I'm bald. Proud of it. And what? No fragility here, bro. No weakness here. Like, what does that mean? That doesn't make you know what I mean? Come on, bro. And you know what, straight? And I'm not going to say that. I was going to offend him. I'll just keep it where it is. Sorry, mate, for my rant, but there we go.
But yeah, Terry, as you were saying about these fans. Oh, have you got an echo?
No, I haven't, mate.
All right, doesn't matter. So yeah, about these fans, they're very vague in their criticism. They don't want to actually say something that you can hold them to account on. They don't want to say anything that's anything specific, because as soon as they put them goalposts in place and United will smash through them, they'll have nothing to move. They won't be able to move them, and that's the whole thing. They won't be able to put an argument that they'll be able to stick to, because, like I said, they don't have any basis to what they're saying. It's just an opinion, and because of their feeling, or whether it's some malicious feeling that they have towards United as a club for their years of glory that they've had. I still think we're one of the most hated clubs in the whole country, and I don't understand why, because we've been shite for so long, but they still hate us, man. Honestly,
mate, I love the hate. The hate's amazing. Like I've said,
it's nice to see
rival fans taking the mick. I'm like, bring it on. It's these fake United fans that get to me so much. They talk dross all the time, and their opinions change to win an individual argument all the time. And the thing is, someone here said, Terry, don't focus on the 1%. I like focusing on the 1% because 99% of Man United fans think these people are idiots, and I want to laugh at them. I'm like, come, we'll just go take a look at what they said. Last week they said, I don't know. We want the club to, have 1 or 2 targets this summer, stick to them. If we don't sign them, we wait till next summer and go and get them. And then a year later, when we're doing that, and you can just go back and find the evidence of them saying this. Do you know what I mean? Like they literally flip flop their opinions all the time. It is predictable and whatnot. But there we go. It's
Terry. Yeah, I've got a question for you. So, how do you feel about Thiago coming then, if he was to come? I know he had like a brief conversation yesterday about it, but I mean, if we was to actually get him, how do you think he'll slot in? Because we've obviously got quite a array of talent in our midfield, haven't we?
It would be amazing. It would give us great strength in depth first and foremost, because we then have a bench which is stacked. You could actually have games where Thiago and Van der Beek are starting on the bench, and you have them to bring on.
Insane.
So I look at Thiago. Thiago, by the way, could be a start for the majority of games. I envisage a formation where you could have Thiago holding that ball, and you could have Bruno and Paul Pogba either side of him in 8 positions. You could have any 2 of the 3 of Bruno, Pogba, Van der Beek in 8s either side of him, because they can all play those roles.
You'd love to see that against the bottom half of the team. Or
Or when you've got, like,
exactly. I don't know, West Brom rocking up to Old Trafford. And like, yeah, man, let's actually give these lots some smoke.
I think everybody outside the top 8 top 9 I would play that type of team against, because we would dominate the ball. He'd orchestrate. He would be for us what we had with Paul Scholes in the latter years of the Ginger Assassin, just sitting there, that quarterback role, dictating play, pray for our rivals.
Honestly. That would be a right thumb in the eye for Liverpool. Honestly,
oh yeah, the banter element would be amazing, because they have all been like praising how good he is, and they would
not only that. It's just like the sorry to cut you off. It's not only that. It's just like the condition of the club. You guys have just won the Champions League. You've won the Premier League. You guys are at the top, considered the best, as you tell us, FIFA World Club Cup or whatever it is that you've won. You're literally the best team, favourites to win the league again. And you're about to have your rival snatched by United, who have been crap for so long. A Europa League team at best, top six is what you've been saying to us for so long. And now we're about to take your number one target. And it is on the verge of.
Yeah, exactly. And it ain't just that, though. Chelsea have taken 2 of their long-term targets away from them. Newcastle have taken one of their main targets away from them this summer as well.
Fullback, was it?
Yeah, imagine losing Jamal Lewis to Newcastle, Timo Werner and Kai Havertz to Chelsea, and Thiago to Man United, when you've just had the best 2.5 years in your club's last 30-year history. Imagine that is going to send Liverpool fans into absolute meltdowns if it happens. And like I've said, I still think that Liverpool are a 90 to 95% certainty to bring in. If Thiago leaves Bayern Munich, I put a 90 to 95% certainty on it being Liverpool where he goes. United have a very, very slim outside chance of getting a deal like that done. But if it does happen, the embarrassment levels for Liverpool fans is beyond epic proportions. Prime has joined us now as well. Prime, what do you want to say, my friend?
Yeah, I think Reguilon will be a good signing. I don't know how much of an upgrade going forward. Yeah, he's an upgrade on Luke Shaw. Defensively, I'm not necessarily sure about him as of yet. But then again, I haven't watched a whole lot of him, so I could be proven wrong on that. It looks like United are now having a good window. Just Sancho on the icing on top of the cake, but that's going to happen within the next probably a few weeks or so. Yeah,
and I think as well, I want Sancho in for this Palace game. Maybe 5 days ago, the talk was, United are confident of that. And, there was the journalist that published that article, I reached out to in private messages, and I said, I was told straight a couple of weeks ago, people thought between sort of the 10th and 14th is when they thought the deal would happen. I'm not really that bothered by it. Like, for me, as long as it's done this window, I'm a happy boy. If we have to wait until January, I'm less happy. If we have to wait till next summer, I'm a little bit less happy, because I think you can never get that time back. But, it is what it is. And if you can bring Reguilon in and then go full steam ahead for Sancho and get it done, it's an outstanding window. And like I say, Donny van der Beek's getting slept on at the moment. I was sitting down just doing some analysis earlier, right? You sort of look over the last few years in football. You look at the fact, Kai Havertz, 60 goals, 31 assists. Donny van der Beek, 58 goals, 40 assists. Average, chances created per game. Kai Havertz is at 1.22. Donny van der Beek is at 1.3. Now listen, Kai Havertz is a sensation. He is a generational talent in the making. He has got the potential to be an absolute world-class player. He's got the ceiling to become one of Chelsea's best ever Premier League players. He is that good. But Donny van der Beek's an interesting one, because in terms of his outputs, in terms of what he delivers, in terms of his overall ability, he's at that standard. But for whatever reason, we've managed to pick this player up for £35 million, which is just under a third of or just over a third of the total price that Chelsea could pay for Kai Havertz if he turns out to be the player that everybody expects him to. And the reason I draw the attention on Kai Havertz is everybody's looking at him because he's a big money player, and it's like, wow, he's going to transform Chelsea's team. Donny van der Beek is in and around that standard. I actually think Donny van der Beek might have a better year in the Premier League next year than Kai Havertz, based on the fact it feels like there's very little expectation on Donny van der Beek as well, which is weird considering we all know how good he is. And that signing by itself has improved us to the next level. The difference he brings to us in comparison to Andreas Pereira, like you're replacing Mason Mount, right? Who was good. I wish Pereira was as good as Mason Mount, by the way, right? So you've gone from someone who's good to like really good. We're going from somebody that's here, like average, to really good. Like the jump and difference in our team is going to be palpable in the same way as we saw from Bruno when we went from Pereira to Bruno. There was just a gulf in class. And I think it's sometimes it can look like a better signing because the difference in quality is it. Does that make sense? Like if you ever, I like drinking wine, right? If you ever go from drinking 5-6 pound bottles of wine to drinking like 20-pound bottles of wine, the difference in taste is unbelievable, right? It really is. If you then move up to the 30-40 pound bottles of wine, the difference between them and the 20-pound bottles for me is like I don't notice the difference as much. Does that make sense? Right? It's the levels are closer, so you don't always notice the improvement as much. You may not see this gigantic leap as Chelsea bringing in those players because you already had pretty good players there. Does that make sense? Where Man United, we literally with Pogba injured, it was trash. And suddenly we've got I'm so excited anyway. Plus what we're going to add, it's going to be brilliant. And by the way, Chelsea fans, just into some of you weak ones cry, I'm not attacking your team. I'm literally praising you that your standards are so high and some of your players are such good quality that bringing in better quality, you may not see as big a jump, as big an improvement. It's like having a really clean house and then having cleaners come in and clean it. You may not really notice the difference. But if you have a really dirty house and you hire professional cleaners, it will look like a palace. Right? If that makes sense. Perspective, I think, is what it is. Relativity is what I'm talking about there. Sorry. Anyway, go on, carry on.
No, it's fine.
I've got a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, first and foremost, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much confidence do you have behind Lampard?
In terms of what specifically? You're asking me personally or as Chelsea?
Yeah.
Chelsea fan?
As a Chelsea fan,
okay.
What's your personal opinion? Do you believe that Frank Lampard's the man to take you to the top, despite the fact that we've seen over the last 2 years that he's got clear problems in his style of play that he doesn't address throughout the season? I'm referring to his defensive gaping goals.
Well, yeah, but he is a young fledgling manager, so there's that. But yeah, when Frank was appointed, personally, my point of view, I didn't want him to come in because being a young manager and knowing what Chelsea is like, we can easily sack a manager at the drop of a hat. I didn't want that to happen because of my love for the player. Also, I didn't know how much he would be backed financially. Now, he came in, no one backed, people barely backed us to finish top 6. We finished 4th. With a transfer ban, yeah, we brought in Pulisic and Kovacic, but we didn't get to improve on our defense. Kepa was abysmal all season. Now we've gone on this madness, and with the players we brought in and everything, we have to challenge and at least finish 3rd. If this transfer window, if this was any other manager, prime Fergie, prime Jose, Conte, whoever, there'd be expectations to win the league. But with Frank, there's not because of his inexperience. Me personally, when he first,
do you think he'll be able to win you anything? Any Chelsea fans,
I don't
interject at any point.
Well,
do you think he'll win?
Well, me personally, before he came in, my expectation base level for Frank was he was going to take our squad or whatever players.
Prime, I really like you, bro, but I'm literally lost with what you're saying. You know, like some of these questions, just answer it straight. Like honestly, it's like you're trying to answer it without answering it, bro. You sound like you sound like Tony Blair. Like just say, answer the question.
My point is, do I think he'll win us the Champions League or the Premier League? No, but I do think he'll get us to a point where we can bring in the man to actually do it.
So essentially, Lampard isn't good enough to achieve the standards of Chelsea fans.
I don't think so on this moment.
There we go. Cool. And that's fine to say that. Monstar's joined us. Monstar, what'd you phone up to say, bro?
First of all, Terry, when you say pray for the rivals, you've got to do it with your chest, man. You know what I mean? You didn't sound convincing there. Say it properly. Do you know what I mean? Pray for the rivals.
All right, cool. I'll take the feedback on that, Monster. Absolutely. Okay, bro. I'll take the feedback on that. Cool.
Prime, I don't agree with you there, man. I genuinely think Lampard can get us a Premier League. I think he can get us a trophy with the big ears. That's a Premier League or a Champions League.
Monster, he asked me, well, I was just giving my answer from when before.
I get that. The problem, as far as Sergio Reguilon, I think Man United, if they can get the best out of him, if they get a good DM as well. Do you know what I mean? They're probably not going to go for one this season, this transfer window, maybe in January. If you get a really good DM or a decent DM, someone that's going to sit and cover him the way Fabinho does with Trent, this guy's potential will be immense. You know, the way he plays going forward is really good. Do you know what I mean? So I think if Man United do get him, it's a really good buy. Do you know what I mean?
No, I agree, mate. I didn't know much about him before the major links, and you spend time studying, watching, listening, learning, and yeah, I think you're right in that. I still think, like I've said, I think Man United are this summer and next summer away from being not the complete. Well, you never know if we're going to be the completed article, but I think they're going to need at least two more years to actually find ourselves in that position. But I'm excited about the potential deal. As an example, I'll answer the Lampard question. I think Lampard does have the ability. I felt all along that Lampard's a top manager. What we'll never know is how he handles pressure. And and I'm talking the elite end of the scale where you're in title races, you're in semi-finals and finals on regular basis. We can't look at one final, one final and go, that's it, he's never going to be good enough. You have to look over a period of time, and that's where you really see the quality of a manager. Also, rotation and management of squad. It's why I always look at Brendan Rodgers. Brendan Rodgers, he's one of the best coaches in football. I think at the elite level of the game, he's an average manager. As soon as he has to rotate, as soon as he has to manage with an injury or two, as soon as he has to maybe give some people some disappointing news, he struggles somewhat. And that's the difference. And that's where we see Lampard, I think, is a very good coach. Can he become a very good or a great manager? Absolutely. Somebody yesterday actually said to me that Bielsa's in the comments, and Bielsa's a great manager. You're not a great manager until you've won back-to-back league titles at the elite level and a Champions League. Please do not overuse the word great manager.
I just speak on Bielsa? I think the problem with Bielsa is an old, what we might call an old school manager. So he's one of those managers that he doesn't like the technical directors and the director of football. He wants to do everything himself, similar to the way Fergie did it. And unfortunately, in today's football, that's not going to happen. So you're not going to really see him at a massive club to win big trophies like that. That's his issue, isn't it?
And I understand. And again, he's probably a very good coach. But, when I talk about, like, people say he's a great manager, I'm like, well, if he was a great manager, he would have been at a bigger club and he would have won major trophies by now. And the reason I say that is let's not disrespect legit great managers who have achieved. Do you get what I mean? Like, I get a bit frustrated with people to do that. Like, I don't even put Wenger into the great manager category because he never won back-to-back titles and he's never won a Champions League. And I think there's every manager has stories in terms of rejuvenated the dietary system, or they brought in a new style of football, or they brought this little nuance in. Every club will have stories. And if you read books about Brian Clough right through to Fergie, there's always stories. You go, Fergie brought this in, Cloughy brought this in, Paisley brought this in. They've all got that. But in the cold light,
you don't think Wenger's got the invincible story?
No.
That's brilliant. But I have a very clear, and by the way, my definition of greatness, I was talking about this years back when Arsenal were like a tip-top team. It wasn't like I set a standard that they could never achieve. When I was this is about 20 years ago, I started talking about, but I think you've got to do something that's rare. And I know going unbeaten is rare. I know doing it is, but often, I don't know. I sort of look at it like it's a brilliant achievement, but greatness isn't just about a single season. It's what you do before it and after it. And I look at, United won the treble and then retain that title 2 more years running is amazing. Yeah. Chelsea had that first season under Jose, and they went and retained it. Man City, they had that brilliant Centurion season, and they went on the next year to almost get 100 points again and retain it, and they won multiple trophies. Those things are greater achievements, in my opinion. And again, this is opinion-based. Like, what I consider a great manager to be will be different from Joe Bloggs, will be different from DT, will be different from Claude, will be different from yourselves. But that's just my standard. So when someone says to me, Bielsa's a great manager, I will never recognize him as that until he's achieved the same things as other great managers. I think it's different. When people turn around, and if anyone ever wants to put another player on the level of Messi and Ronaldo, they've got to achieve what they have in terms of winning and in terms of individual outputs. Until you've done those two things, you never, ever, 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 ever get mentioned in the same breath as those two players ever. Yeah. You just can't do it. And that's my kind of my kind of train of thought with these type of things, which is why I said earlier, I think Kai Havertz is an amazing player. But I look at Donny van der Beek and he's getting slept on. The guy's numbers are about the damn same. This season, fair enough, Kai Havertz well outscored him. I think he got almost double the amount of goals that he did. But then that's often a system thing. Like one's being played almost as a second striker, the other's a midfielder. But in terms of chances being created, Donny van der Beek creates more. And this isn't an attack on Kai Havertz. He's amazing. Just to Chelsea fans that are sensitive can understand that two clubs can have two brilliant players in their clubs at the same time, and they'd be very, very close. My point is, Donny van der Beek could come into the Premier League this year and in terms of goal contributions, could outperform Kai Havertz. And why that would be brilliant isn't because it's a bit of banter with Chelsea, but it's more so picking him up for £35 million. I think people are looking at the deal being so cheap.
It's a steal.
It is, and that's the point. That's the point I'm making. It isn't an attack on Chelsea. It's saying when you bring in a £90 million player, everyone goes, "Oh, I'm scared now. They're going to be serious." Yeah. You bring in a £35 million player, everyone goes, "No."
There's no pressure on Donny. You know, people are even saying he might come off the bench. So there's completely no pressure on Donny van der Beek. And you know, as Chelsea fans, we've seen him when we played him against in the Champions League, and I think he scored against us. Yeah. So he's a quality player. We saw him last season as well in the Champions League. I would say though, in that Ajax team, he's like fourth or fifth best player in it. So.
Yeah, but that Ajax team was amazing. It's weird though, because you look at, like, for example, Arsenal, and they want Partey and Aouar, and those players are above their spending bracket. But someone like Van der Beek is available and cheap enough to get. But yeah, they didn't go in for him.
I think he was above their spending bracket as well.
Yeah, he was. See, these are the comments I love. Right, there's a comment here that said that, but Donny van der Beek was outplayed by Jorginho like a week ago in an international. But this is where fans have got to stop being so myopic. So you know. My reaction to Tottenham losing yesterday was nothing to do with Tottenham losing one game yesterday. It's to do with everything that's led up to that particular point. You know what's going to happen for Chelsea if Ziyech plays tonight. Is he fit tonight?
No, he's not fit.
Okay.
No.
Who's good? Okay. Havertz
and Werner should play.
So if Werner plays tonight and doesn't score and misses a really good chance, you know what's coming, don't you, as Chelsea fans? You quite literally know what's coming in social media. It's going to be a complete and utter write-off. People have got to understand that all players, even the likes of Messi and Ronaldo that we mentioned, have had games, even in their seasons where they were scoring 60, 70 goals, had games where they were nullified. It's just weird, like a thing that fans do now. I need to find out one game where your favourite player isn't great, and we're going to use that as the example.
Every player has that.
Chelsea fans were doing it when West Ham played Newcastle and West Ham lost like 2-0. Chelsea fans who don't like Declan Rice, they're making compilations of him that game, even though he had a good game. So.
Mate, I reckon if you had the time and you had the brain capacity to do it, you could find a great game a player had. Like yesterday, I thought that James Rodriguez played really, really well. I bet you can make a compilation yesterday of all these mistakes and make it look bad.
Of course.
Because players make them.
Any player.
But this is what happens. What's going to happen when Werner plays, when Ziyech plays, is everyone that don't like them or doesn't like Chelsea is going to look for every single mistake they make and go, see. Now, if Kai Havertz does what Bruno does and tries maybe 10 passes a game to cut a team open, but only 3 come off, negative people will go, hang on a minute. Have you noticed that? 7 times a game, he gives the ball away in situations where he should be making the pass. Do you get where I'm coming? That is what will happen on a very, very, very regular basis. And for me, that's not a concern from a banter point of view. It's when that type of element creeps over into like genuine football analysis, because I feel like a lot of journalists and a lot of football analysts have now gone into that mold of thinking, I'd rather just create something quick that's going to create a laugh and make people banter each other, as opposed to assessing a player properly. Does that make sense? It just something I did it when we did the watch along for the City Arsenal FA Cup semi-final. You know, I did the whole thing was like, I'm gonna mention every time Kevin De Bruyne's passes don't come off. You know, it was 8 minutes in, and my friends that were here were like, "Just stop it, Terry. You're getting on our nerves now." And I'm like, "But it's because I was saying it like every 30 seconds because it's like players like that lose it a lot, but people don't like but it always happens."
Players like that take the risks. Great players take the risks that you not necessarily let me say the greater players, they take the risks that non-great players do. Do you know what I mean? Non-great players, they rather play it safe, but with the great players, they in order to pull off the brilliance, they've got to take the chances. It's like it's just a risk. Do you know what I mean? This is why the top 1% are richer than everyone else, because the risk they take. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
A little message as well to a lot of people that are saying Glazers out. I've seen some really prominent Man United fans talk about the Glazers out and how the Glazers are stealing money out of the club and it's a disgrace. Those people are saying it while sitting in brand new Man United kits. So again, like I say, if you want to buy Man United kits, if you want to go to games, if you want to buy sponsors products, that is your right to. I'm not judging you. But please don't sit there and moan about the owners, moan how the club is run, moan about the way the money is spent, and then go and feed it. I cannot understand how you even remain credible amongst the Man United fan base while doing that. Madness. Absolute madness. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
I don't know. Have you spoken on the smear campaign with Mason Greenwood? It's actually disgusting.
Yeah, we did a big segment on that last night, man, and I fuming about it. Fuming. It's what I think what wound me up more than the Sun. Am I angry at the Sun? I'm beyond bothered with them because we know what they do. I'm angry at. Go on.
As I say, there's no consideration given as well for where he's from or what environment he's grown up in, what background he's from. If I'm not mistaken, with Mason Greenwood, he's actually from Bradford, lives in an area called Wibsey. Now, Bradford's like one of the areas, like I was checking this the other day, it's an area that's densely populated with crime of all nature. So I was looking for the insurance policies, literally the 3 postcodes that hit the top 10 regions in the whole of the UK, and 3 of them postcodes are from Bradford alone. So it just goes like to show what kind of demographic he's from and what the area is like, and the high usage of all these illicit substances is very common in that area. So for him to have a video that's X years old, and it's not something that is that illicit in the scale of things, but obviously it's not considered an illegal substance. It's not a controlled substance yet. In the eyes of the law, it's actually not a controlled substance. So for them to paint it in this fashion that they have done, labeling it hippie crack and all the rest of it, like you said, I don't want to echo exactly what was said last night, but I just completely agree with yourself.
Yeah, no, I agree. My biggest annoyance is with football fans who again, it's the virtue signaling. And by the way, like Lucy Gabriel says, I respond to your comment. Everyone's entitled to buy the kit and stuff. It's more just if you don't like. I look at it this way: if I don't like how a company is run, I won't give them any money. If I don't like how I'm treated by a company, I won't give them any of my money. I'll often stay quiet about my dislike of them because I'm not really political in that way. But I just find it ironic moaning about something and then funding it anyway. It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't compute in my brain. And on the Mason Greenwood thing, again, I see fans every single day when it comes to the Sun of all clubs. Don't buy the Sun. They're scumbags. Look what they've done here. Look what they've done there. And until they, the amount of City fans that would hate them because of what they've done about Raheem Sterling, the amount of Liverpool fans that hate them for legit reasons, who have been laughing at, spreading out, and trying to cancel Mason Greenwood over this news. I'm like, bro, you're siding with the same newspaper that you hate just because you're trying to get one over on a rival. That's the level of hypocrisy and lack of integrity and morality that makes me angry, because that's why we'll never eradicate these problems from society, because people actually don't care ever about who has done what. It's whether or it's not by what's been done, it's who's done it. That's all we care about as a society. It's who's done it. We don't care what kind of person gets abused, what kind of person gets hurt, which kind of person gets killed. We don't care that these things have happened. It's what type of person has it happened to? What direction are we punching in? That's the way society works. And it's really, really sad to see, actually, that we have no morality. We just care about, it's like everything's one-upmanship. Does that make sense? That's all it comes down to. Can I get one over on a group of people or a sector of people or a fan base or a newspaper or a political party or a job type or a skin color or a religion? Can I get one over on them? Whenever you hear, when the Birmingham news happened a week or so ago, that someone had been stabbed, straight away, you can almost feel it from the gammons. Please be Islamic terrorism. Please. You could feel it in their tweets. They were waiting for the news. They're desperate for it to be. I'm sitting there thinking, oh, the poor soul has been stabbed. I hope they survive. That's all the first thing in my mind, right? And you get it all the way. And it's rife in football now as well. We don't care what the Sun write, as long as they're not writing it about a player I like or a club I like. That's a simple, fundamental, straightforward nature of it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I back that, and it's also the religion I like as well. Not to make this a political show or anything, but Islamophobia is rife in this country at the moment, and it's properly perpetuated by these media outlets.
Oh, hugely, bruv. I grew up in the East End. A lot of my friends are Bengali, and you know what? I spent a lot of time with them growing up, and once one of my friends, he tested the water if I'd be interested in converting. I gave him a look and like, bro, I'm an atheist, bro. It's not about converting. It's about convincing me something even exists. He laughed, right? My guy at Sergio, I love you, bro. helped me out. And this is why I always say to people, like Suchel, a good friend of mine, I was in financial trouble when I was younger. I had to move out of a property. I had no money to get into another one. I was in debt, dire straits. And I just remember him walking into to the staff room because we worked together at the time. Management, boom, there's a cash, go get it sorted, pay me back when you can. And it's like, I've been around good and bad people from all backgrounds and all religions. And it's why when I see this sort of something bad happens, and it could be a terrorist who is doing it he's a bad Muslim and he goes out and does this. My issue isn't like, oh, all Muslims, If I see the news story that a young guy who happens to be black who's in a gang and stabs someone, I'm not thinking, oh, all those black people, man, what they're doing. It's individual people within these sectors. I've got no hair and I'm white, right? That doesn't mean I'm a neo-Nazi, bruv. Like, just because I can't help my hair's falling out. But if you judge me as one because of how I look, you're as bad. And that for me echoes now across everywhere. It's more rife in the sport than it's ever been before because people have social media. Because football's just a reflection of society. And you're right, mate. There's you've seen today, there's a spitting image caricature that's been trending today of Mark Zuckerberg. Now, I didn't know that Mark Zuckerberg was Jewish until today. Now, maybe I should buy his name, but then again, that's assumption. That's again another assumption. I don't really think about these things, and it's like stereotypical. They made the nose really big and everything else, and it's trending. People are like, well, yeah, it's got a big nose. It's like, you don't understand like how that looks and how it makes people feel. But it's just, as we say, it's just there. It's just all the time this stuff exists, and until it gets. But the point I'm making is, if you're gonna call it out, the Mark Zuckerberg thing today, I want you to call it out when it's a caricature that accentuates the features of, say, a black person with maybe larger nostrils and big lips, as an example, a stereotypical thing there. If they're trying to depict someone who's not a Nazi as a Nazi, have the same energy. Do you get where I'm coming from? I always feel like if you're gonna defend one group, have that energy for all the groups, or shut your mouth. I don't want to hear it for one and not the other. That's just my view anyway. Again, I know I'm preaching a bit here, but these kind of things annoy me so much. Yeah, you're right, Terry. It's got to be consistent. I was just going to say that one last thing that you mentioned there. Do you know, and being atheist, and like you say, no, like theists, something very different in the sense that obviously one believes in God, one doesn't, isn't it? That belief isn't based on like just assumption or faith or like a jump that someone's making. There's actually logical deductive proofs for that. If you study like the actual subject of logic, you can see why if you fail to believe in some sort of a creator, some sort of overarching power, some sort of being, and what that is can be deciphered in a whole range. And I agree. And my view is like, there is a proof though. It's not just a leap of faith is what I'm trying to get. Yeah, and you know what it is? For there to be a God. No, and I listen, and I'm one of these. Just because I don't believe doesn't mean I don't completely respect everybody else's choice to believe, have faith and whatnot. And I respect it. Do you get what I mean? Like if I walk into a church, I've been in a mosque before. If I'm in a synagogue, if I'm in any of these places, I will respect those buildings and respect everything about it massively. Do you know why? Because I expect everybody that would use those buildings to respect my decision. And do you know why I expect them to do it? Because all your gods say it. Tell you to not judge people. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's just madness. Like that's what annoys me about all of this. Like people try to act like everyone who does that judgment thing is literally sinning in their own little sector, in their own little world. Like that's what makes me so angry about it all. It's like you're all just hypocrites. And we all know, again, whatever religion you believe in, we all know what God does to hypocrites, don't we? If you're religious out there, like he don't like you very much. You go deep. You're like deep. You go deeper into hell than certain other like sins you can create. So just like everyone, treat people as you wish to be treated. And you know what? I think instantly you create a nicer society. Now, I don't know how we've got onto this from talking Mason Greenwood. We got in this conversation. But it stems from that, bro. The way Mason Green was treated, it's all along that same line. It's all along that same line. It's why it's happening in my view. But there we go. Boys, I appreciate you all tuning in. We're live from 7 p.m. tonight for the chat. You on with us tonight, Monster?
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'll come on.
Sweet.
You're not streaming tonight, Monster?
I guess not.
I didn't realize Prime was still here. Hello, Prime.
Yeah.
Prime's been listening.
I'm struggling with StreamYard, man. But yeah.
So we're not on StreamYard. We're doing it via Skype.
Oh, via Skype. Yeah, via Skype.
Sweet as. Cool. All right, guys. I've got a chip. Everyone who's tuned in, thank you. Boys that called in, appreciate it. Listen, until next time, everybody, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again soon. Peace.